bless.
The term God, according to the oldest Bible, is the word Ilaha. That is in their own voice, language. Ilaha. So you can also go to Google. I mean, it's just all I'm saying is over time research and what you read and this blah, blah, blah. It's the Ilaha that the Muslims call Allah. So over time, every language evolves. So today, okay, like in the past, my surname was spelled with an H. O-S-H. I'm Osinusi. O-S-H. Then there was H, acceptable. In modern Yoruba, there's no H because you can't pronounce it. Because it sounds like I, E, 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 and it sounds like E. So there's no H. So if you spell my surname in today's writing, it would be O-S-I. Languages evolve. They become refined.
But we did not evolve from our own mother tongue into English, right?
Okay, so evolution, like I said, refinement of language is not conversion. That's not what I'm saying.
Yes,
I'm not saying
but
so the Hebrew became English.
Yeah, what I'm saying is what is happening right now and what happens afterwards was a conversion.
Yes, it was a conversion. It was a conversion by the superpowers that be.
Because, let me go back to the Bible, right? I've read stuff that talks about the Bible now. They will tell you most of what we have in the Bible now is different from what the Bible used to be from the beginning.
Can I be a little bit more controversial?
Yes. That is where we are not in.
I'm not sure Jesus ever said Bible because the word Bible is also English.
Okay.
In his tongue, in his language, it was called Injil.
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 That's the book.
Yes.
Okay. So the Injil has been refined over the years by its different author, and now
I would say mostly people will compile history. So it's all about the history of the world. In the Middle East, the Greeks are there before the Romans. Then the Romans took this thing away to Italy, and they appointed one of their own as the head of the religion that they found in the Middle East, the Pope. You know, so I don't know how you come to another man's land, steal Oduduwa, and go and appoint Oni of England. I don't know how that works, but that's exactly what they did to Christianity.
No, explain that again.
Okay, so what I'm saying is they took a religion from the Middle East, the Roman armies.
Yeah.
They took it to Rome and appointed one of their own, an Italian man, as the head of the religion that they stole from another region of the world. So that's why I'm saying, how do you come to Yoruba land, steal Oduduwa, and go and appoint an Oni of America, for example? Oni is supposed to be the highest title king in Yoruba land.
Yes.
So how can you now take it and go and appoint, in religious context, the Pope in another place? Well, let's scale it down a bit. Let's not go too complex. But there's a lot of distortion in the world. A lot of religious people practice what has been handed down to them. Most don't question, most don't research. And one of the things God actually wants us to do is seek.
Knowledge, and you shall be given.
Is seek, yes. And through seeking is where we've come to today's technology. It's through seeking that there's research, there's technology, there's progress.
So, let me get a little bit controversial too, right? Or maybe I'm just thinking too...
Be my guest, I was born like that.
Maybe I'm just thinking too loud. This technology thing is mostly channeled, empowered by the Western. Would you say is part of the things they actually stole from Africa?
So when you say it's channeled, I'm a little bit lost with the language there. But if you say it's mostly promoted, I would agree with you.
No, I don't want to use the word promotion. What I mean by channeled is every relevant technology that grew over the time is by a white person.
It's by a white person.
Yes.
There
is a level of intelligence that is way above you and I understanding, which I think is part of what they found in the Middle East that actually powers all these things. Because for you to have moved somebody's religion, It's not just religion, bro. There's so many things in between that we don't understand.
I agree with you, but the sort of conversationalist that I am is the type that dwells on what we know and leave out what we don't know. So I won't go to the things we don't know. Let's talk about the things that we know.
Okay.
Let's ask questions around the things that we know.
Yeah, tell us the ones we know.
So when you say it seems as if, what I heard you say is that the white man has been superior to the black man in terms of technology or development.
100.
I won't say 100. Oh, 100 with the statement, right?
100%
Oh,
that
but I
the
don't
white
agree that is
people
true.
has been superior when it comes to technology than the black person.
Okay, so the white race have been promoters of technology, and I explain it the way I understand it. Technology has a basis, like every other thing. If you want to cook jollof rice, you have to assemble raw rice, your pepper, your tomato, Maggi, and whatever your condiments that you use in it. The basis of technology is mathematics, physics, chemistry, the sciences. Have you ever questioned where the oldest university in the world is?
Oldest university in the world.
Yes, and we can start to use Google to ascertain our answers. And have you ever questioned the mathematicians that developed the basis for technology? For example, almighty algebra.
I know that's some Middle East.
Middle East, yes. Not the West, because when you say white men, I believe most people
You're
refer
referring
to the West.
Yes.
Most of this was actually in the Middle East. Right? And, well, those were the bases. But the white man, like a typical businessman, is more or less of a promoter. If you would ask me, for example, most of these technologies that we've accepted are like wildfire today. The phones, the laptops, the computer in general.
Yeah.
Most of them are produced in Asia, not in the West. So what the West does is they assemble brains. They thought they were superior, but when they realized that knowledge was in every part of the world and the most crucial ones was not within them, they started paying people from all over the world. So I think most people have used fear to prevent them from discussing religion and science.
Yes.
But that's not what it should be. So because people feel they'll be blasphemous if they inquire into matters of religion or spirituality, they rather stay safe and say, oh, please, I don't want to have that discussion. It's an ignorant behavior. When God says seek knowledge, he's asking you to seek knowledge about everything. God is only telling you, don't try to find the source of me, because you would not find that answer. Every other thing you can question, you can try to find out. Because the question about how did God originate doesn't end.
Yes.
You can't find an answer. It's either you believe there's a God or you believe there's no God, but you would not find an answer to that question.
Okay, so if the oldest university is in Africa, in the Middle East, right?
Yeah, what was the answer? Did anyone try to Google?
Did you check?
University of Bologna. That's what I saw.
University of Bologna, no, sorry. I've forgotten where the university actually is. The oldest university in Israel. Oldest. Sorry, I'll just do a quick search.
It's good to check. We have all the time.
University of Bologna, no, it's not actually the oldest. I say that, yeah, but I'll get there in medieval times.
What's Google telling you?
Yeah, I'm trying to check. There's another one that says that the first university was built by a woman, so I'm trying to find the name. But it's a Muslim name that's here, Fatima.
Okay, this has been tried. They've tried to change the language around this. So if you go to Guinness Book of Records, it's actually a university in Morocco, founded, it's as old as 1,159 years. It's somewhere in Karen in Morocco, founded at 859 after death.
That's Africa.
Yeah, that's Africa.
That's Africa.
Yeah. So what am I trying to bring out by saying this? So probably the oldest modern university is the one in Bologna. Yeah. But there are older ones before then. Africa and the Middle East had a lot of developments amongst them. but we're poor in recording data, hence history. So the white man is a great promoter of things. It starts with recording data, giving dates, giving histories. So histories become valuable. Value is translated to money. So let me simplify that in a relatable term. There are two artists. One, a Nigerian. The second one, an Italian. The Nigerian, let's just say the Nigerian has a superior artistic ability and capability. He actually makes a better painting or sculpture. But his works don't sell for more than 10,000, 20,000 naira. But then you have this Italian man. His gift of art is not as in-depth as that Nigerian man. But the value chain around him makes his work sell for $1 million. How does that happen? He goes to an area in Italy, maybe Sicily Valley or somewhere, paints Sicily, and starts to give data about Sicily. The history about Sicily, the sort of things that has happened around Sicily. And then, in his wisdom, he decides that he even wants to sell his painting to the elites. So maybe member of a royal family or something. Automatically, even if his work was bought for the equivalent of 10,000 naira, because it's now being owned by an elite or a royal person, it has increased in value. When that person decides to sell it or auctions it, the value must have skyrocketed above and way above, you know. So there's recorded history, there's all these things that make a product valuable. Meanwhile, the product is not actually as good in terms of in-depth analysis as what that Nigerian man has created. But he cannot do the whole ecosystem of value chain. So his work remained where he is. As a matter of fact, I was walking a curator through a gallery, a famous gallery here in Lagos, a couple of months back, and I was amazed that this person didn't even understand art, and that's a curator of a gallery. You point at an art, and you be like, "Oh, what media is this?" And they're like, "It's just a painting." Come on, that's not enough. You can't tell me this is 200,000 if you can't tell me anything about it. A white man creates a product with a manual. Tells you how to assemble it, tells you what it's about, tells you how to clean it. All those things are not the product, but it's value creation around the product.
I'm going to go back to tech.
Oh, sorry, I've digressed a lot.
Yeah.
One thing can lead to the other.
Yeah. I'm going to go back to tech and the black person. Right? So you said the Westerners are good promoters of tech.
Of
products. But if you look at the brain behind it, it's from every other part of the world too. Right? But for the ones we know, right, there's always a Western person who champions.
That's why I call them great promoters. If you go to the biggest tech companies in the world, you find an assemblage of, in their R&D departments, research and development, it's usually an assemblage of Middle Easterners,
Indians,
Asians,
yeah,
and some Africans.
You're right.
They themselves have become mentally lazy to a great extent.
Is it?
But they are great promoters. They'll bring up the funds. They understand the value. They understand what it can do to the economy. So they bring you and pay you high salaries and go back to your region and produce it. Come back to the West and label it and put all the histories and everything you need to know and the manuals and everything and sell it to the world 10 times the creation price or much more. So they are great promoters. They are good businessmen.
So it's not a fluke that Mark Zuckerberg married somebody from Asia.
It's not a fluke that Zuckerberg itself is not a Western name. What am I trying to say?
Fire.
Who is the CEO? Who is the CEO? Who is the CEO of
Fire?
Who is the CEO of Microsoft? Don't tell me Bill Gates. I mean, you have to upgrade from there. You know, Bill Gates is not. Is not. So if you just Google, for example, so we can start to take our studies with facts.
Why is my fact checker not on?
So
and this is
Google,
not on.
So from Google, the CEO of Microsoft is Satya Nadella.
Satya Nadella?
That's certainly not a Western name. So if I click his origin, you would find out that
The CEO of
Microsoft, yes.
CEO of Microsoft is not Bill Gates.
No. So Bill Gates is like the chairman of the board.
Bro, see, I'm dumb as fuck.
No,
But
you're not.
this is busting my head.
It's just
Like-
what one knows. No one is dumb. No one ever is.
Are you serious?
Yeah. So it was actually born in Hyderabad. Okay, that's
Hyderabad.
modern day Pakistan now.
Yeah.
Or present day Telangana, India, into a Telugu speaking Hindu family. His mother, Pravati, was a Sanskrit lecturer. Anyway, let me not go into the whole thing, but I just wanted you to know that. So that's why I say if you go into the R&D departments of most big tech companies, you see that they're actually not the native white blood, so to speak. They're usually from Far East or somewhere. But this is not taking credibility away from
them.
the folks from the West. They are smart, and when I say they are great promoters, they are great organizers and promoters. So they recognize talent, they recognize products, they understand how to predict the future by making the future. So they assemble all these things that people have individually, put it together. So they are the forerunners in promoting technology. And you can stretch it by saying in assembly or in making technology.
Yeah.
But the brains behind them are not most of the time them. But indeed, the brain for the product is them.
Okay. Would you say it is coincidental or it's by accident that the biggest black nation or the biggest the most populated black nation in history is actually one of the most suffering?
I believe you're referring to Nigeria.
Because it is. And the reason why I'm saying this is we've been talking about Africa as a whole, right? But when you compare Africa with Asia, with the with Europe, with America, Africa has the most populated numbers of black people. That is where black people are originated, right?
Yeah.
How come is the only continent that is behind on the scale?
Okay, just before this point is lost on me, where we're referring to technology, I'll come back to this present question. Let it not be lost on us that the reason why most of these technologies work at the pace that they work on is actually due to the calculations developed and solved by Professor Dr. Philip Emeagwali. You know, so most of these supercomputers, they can work and run from binary system to the speed that they have today, and it keeps improving because of his calculations. Now that's an able man from Nigeria. However, I'm one of the most important people in the world. So I'm just talking about how these things come about.
Yeah.
But of course, he might not think about creating the computer and selling it for commerce and all that. But these are brains that's why people pick and then they create what they need to create. Coming to why Nigeria lags behind. Honestly, it started to seem like it's something mysterious because one would think we have a good educated society. We've been blessed with resources. I know most of the times improvements come in the face of adversity. And it's through challenge that people usually find solutions and overcome. Could it be that we've been blessed to be too comfortable in this part of the world to start with? Could it be because we have all these mineral resources, we're lazy about thinking around them? What is the reason for colonization? It's not because the white man felt he needs a vacation, that he's traveling around the globe, assembling slaves and stealing stuff. It's so that he can sustain his own society, his own populace, that it go all over the world. So say, for example, Britain colonized most parts of Africa. Why? Mineral resources, QED. Why mineral resources? Because they needed to feed their population. They do not have, the UK, for example, it's a small space.
Yeah.
They do not have all the land to use for agriculture because they have an ever-expanding real estate. So food has to come from somewhere. And they need to feed their people. And because they know how to understand, they really understand what to do with all these raw materials. That's why I started with the analogy of making jollof rice. The rice, the pepper, the tomato. They understand how to get all these things, put them together, make it a product, and sell it, and enrich their society. That's why I call them the great promoters. But you can also actually call them the inventors per se. But they are not the inventors of the basics or the basis of these modern technologies. So there are two different things. You can be a great producer, but the day you try to sing, you might not even have attention. Yes. I think we can agree from the 100. Entertainment industry. Yeah.
100.
So the white men are like the producers of this world, but the artists are actually the rest of the world.
Okay. Producers of the world.
What goes on in the world? Pardon my language, because the real producer of the world is God.
Yeah.
But producer in terms of human capacity, yes. So they are the producers and the directors.
But how can you be so blessed? Better than the producers? How can you be so talented? Let me go that route. Better than the producer, or you get, but you're still the most suffering.
Okay, so I'd say you can be there's this boy being groomed by Davido that is a hit artist now, his main guy. What's his name? Mayoko. How can you be a Mayoko with all the talent and you can't blow more than Davido? See, God has a balance in this world. You can't have it all. I'm sorry, let me go a little bit on the social side. On the social side, so there's this thing we used to call DKNY when we were in secondary school. Do you know what DKNY meant? Not the designer, designer this time around.
No, I don't know. I don't know. Which
okay, forgive me. We used to use this analogy then. We'll say dirty keg, no yash. So it means God can give you a lot of this and not give you a lot of that. Or God can give you a lot of ass and then you don't have a lot of this. God has a balance. You can't have it all. Only a few people manage to have an average of most things, but you can't have it all. So I think to create interdependence and reliance on each other, that's the reason why no one would have it all, I think. And I mean, it's eventually up to God how he reasons around these things. But logically, in the human perspective, it looks like, yes, we have to depend on each other. Imagine if everyone was created hermaphrodite, or you can actually procreate on your own. You might not find a need for a woman.
Yes.
So God has given you this and has given her that, and you find a reason to come together just so that you can cohabit, you can correlate, you can depend on each other. One way or the other.
So you think this is about dependencies?
Because they say problem no the end, though. They say, well, I'll be like bicycle.
Abi?
So, and as a as a result, I mean, people get tired of people easily if there's no need of those people. Most of the reasons we have people around us is because of our need of them. You can argue and ask me, what do your parents need from you? Story for the gods. They actually needed to prove that they could have a child. When they did, they needed to prove that they could have a heir that will take over their wealth. Or if it's not a money issue, they just needed to prove that they were.
At least somebody can carry the name along.
Yes, it was more or less for their selfish gain. The child has nothing to do with that. It's a reason that comes from a man and a woman coming together. Now, if it's unwanted, it's a totally different thing. But it's a result of an action, whichever way you look at it.
Dependencies.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so that some believe that once they get old, they need people to look after them, but they prefer their own blood and kith and kin to look after them. So they want to have children of their own. So it's because of this dependence value that we need each other, that we co-work, that we co-relate, that we co-inhabit, that we do things together.
Let me put it in from another angle, right? Do you know there is a fence around Asia to the Western world? In as much as they do a whole lot of business with the Westerners, there is a big fence, especially around China, that you cannot easily penetrate them culturally, spiritually, even tech-wise, It's like it's like a shield. Do you think Africa was too loose?
I would say
because the projection says by 2038 China might be the next world power, right?
So I would say some nations or some territories were luckier than others. The likes of China is a very old civilization, and by their sheer size, they're the most populated in the world. I think about 1.6 billion, if I'm right. Yeah, I think we can just research that and check. About 1.6 billion out of about 7 point something billion people we have on Earth. So they have that sheer size, and they had good thinking and articulate leaders who could see from the past, defend their territories, and grow the things that they need to defend themselves. As a result, you couldn't find Europeans coming to colonize the Chinese, for example, because they could defend their own.
And they still do it till today.
Absolutely. And that is why there's no Christianity or Islam like that in China. You can find pockets, but they have all their own religions. Everything protected. Their mother tongue protected. Everything protected.
Everything is protected, yeah. You can't even access Twitter.
So, the biggest colonization of the world is passing on of culture and taming the minds. So they come with brute force, with the guns, to enslave you. Because let's stop looking at them and see if the Oriwan Kweju to Allah. No. Well, Oriwan Kweju to Allah in the sense that they actually outsmarted us. But they came with weapons that we couldn't develop. The difference between the white man and the black man she colonized is basically the weapon. Two men are always equal until one pulls out a gun. So they had weapons. Our weapons in this part of the world were a little bit crude. They were basically the charms that we believed that our deities offered. So you can also argue that religion and spirituality is of the mindset. They came not believing any of that crap. So there was no Shango or Ogun to cast them out when they came with guns. And they will blast off the head of the priest. But the strongest man in our own society in Black Africa cannot dare slap the priest. So you can also argue that the mindsets, all of this revolves around the mindset, basically, right? Otherwise, if our jars were so potent, if all those things we believed were so potent, I mean, come on, they shouldn't have penetrated us that badly. But they did, and they realized that the world was getting more educated and there was a need for independence everywhere in the world. So they transferred their culture and their way of thinking to us. And they transferred it in a way to cause what you call a phenomenon of neocolonialism. So that colonization never ever stops, from the old type of colonization to the new types of colonization. So they gave you their sort of laws, their way of thinking, their culture, everything. And we, the better side, the better areas of the society where they colonize, the so to speak elites, always try to emulate the British man so that he looks higher, because the British man has created himself as the superior figure. So we always want to wear our shirts, our ties, we're better. What makes you better than that man that is wearing Agbada? Agbada is what he knows in his own culture.
The same thing the same philosophy is the reason why you walk into a church and you see picture of Jim Caviezel representing Jesus Christ on the fucking cross.
I'm happy you mentioned this particular point because it is controversial and I stopped mentioning it. But you're right. The image of actors are all over the world representing God.
Yeah.
QED. The Bible only describes Jesus. Then actors came up and then their photos are everywhere. And you don't call that idol worshiping? I'm sorry, that is deep, but another conversation for another day. Because we know idol worshiping to mean worshiping images and objects.
Wale, see, you have to, we have to be doing this because we all need to be educated and understand that Africa is a different animal only if we can understand what the basics are, and use other people as examples to actually see how we can fix ourselves better. Because I don't think it is okay, we understand there's corruption, but these things started from a point. There's so many of these things that still deliver to some people that are even higher than the thinking of an average person, And the brainwashing is, because I saw a news recently that they returned some artifacts to Benin from England also, And I was saying that, can you return the brainwashing, the mental slavery? Because that is even way more deeper than physical objects.
So that's the neocolonialism I'm talking about. Neo being Neo, colonialism. So you can also Google that and check what it entails. So it's a way of controlling the mind. The Westerners are so smart that they took things like when we were talking about the Middle East and the Greco-Romans, they took things that could control the mind and the society. So what controls the mind and the society? What people fear. People fear what they don't understand. So you come to a part of the world and people could die for these beliefs. They took those beliefs and imposed it on their people to create order in the society.
To create order.
In the society. It's a way of controlling the world. And brainwashing is not something they can return to you because they washed it from you. You have to reclaim it yourself through education.
Educate your mind.
Through education. So, is it true that in the name of Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name? Did Jesus say all those things? He certainly didn't speak English. We can always agree that he didn't speak English.
Yes, but what if it was translated?
Okay. So when it comes to issue of translation, I always tell people to look back at their mother tongues. It is very difficult to successfully convert one language to the other. Always very difficult. Also, if you say Olorun in Yoruba, for example, as your Yoruba man, in English, you would like to call it
God.
You say God. She can say Lord. He can say Master. And they would all mean the superior person. All right?
Mm-hmm.
That's because there's always a loss in translation when you're converting from one language to the other. It might not be so much. We get the picture. Yeah, we're talking about God. We're talking about Almighty. You can qualify it, and all those different words can mean different things, but similar. So, is it possible? That's just a question. I have my own answers, but I'm just opening the minds of others.
Yeah.
Is it possible that when you took this thing from the Middle East, who took it? The Romans. Remember the Greeks too?
Mm-hmm.
How did the English get it? Through King James. How did King James get it? Through the Crusades. Those were wars. So the Greeks and the Romans stole it from the Middle East. The British Empire stole it from them when they became more powerful. Right? And every time it is stolen, they convert it to another language. There are people in a committee who sit around it. Those are the people you might have referred to earlier on as authors. I won't say authors, they were compilers, but they added their own jara and removed their own what they didn't understand.
So,
I'm sorry if I refer to the Old Testament.
Wale, on a closing note.
Okay, wonderful.
The World King James Version is not a fluke.
It is not. It's deliberate. It's due to crusade.
Thank you, my brother.
You're welcome.
If people want to follow you, do you have social media handle, things like that? They can.
No, I'm just Adewale Osinusi on Facebook and Akwalosh on Instagram, but that's it. I'm not really out there in the social space.
It's really nice talking to you.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
We have to do this again, and again.
My pleasure.
Thank you, people, for listening. Love you all. Bye.
My name is Jobless.
Oh yeah, package.
This is the remix. Eruku Yapalori remix.